I'm Léonie Watson. By day, I'm a senior accessibility consultant with the Paciello Group and chairman of the British Computer Association of the Blind. By night, I'd like to tell you I was a superhero, but I'm a blogger, podcaster, foodie, book lover and tequila drinker. Is accessibility a challenge to creativity? No, absolutely not. It's a creative challenge. We've come a long way since the late 90s, early 2000s, when the concept of an accessible website was probably a text-only website. We actually know now, and there are a lot of companies out there doing it, that you can have really beautiful, creative websites, really engaging websites that are completely usable by all sorts of people, people with disabilities, people without, people on different technologies. So anyone now who still thinks that accessibility has to cramp their style, I really suggest take another look at it and put the talent that we've got as designers and developers out there to finding accessible solutions to the creative stuff, rather than constraining the creative stuff to make it accessible. Responsive design is brilliant for accessibility. In fact, it's what accessibility in some respects is about at its very heart, about creating different experiences for different audiences. So actually it's brought something right into the mainstream that's been there in accessibility all along, and we can now build on that to make things even more accessible, if you like. So where responsive is traditionally looking at different platforms, mobile, desktop, whatever, you can take that on to greater variations. CSS media queries mean you could present different experiences for people using different assistive technologies, as well as different hardware platforms, a whole bunch of other stuff. So yeah, it's brilliant. Bringing two things together like responsive design and accessible design is, I think, slightly the wrong way of looking at it. It's easy to sort of think about designing or building a website and then thinking about the accessibility of it. Actually, where we all need to be is just doing that first design build part with the accessibility intrinsically built into it, and that's where we're getting now. I talk to designers and developers all over the world who just understand accessibility, and there is no concept of, right, I'm going to go and build this and oh wow, now I better stop and work out how to make it accessible. It's just accessible in everything they do and everything they build. So if you take that on to responsive design, the accessibility is inherently there in each of the responsive designs that are being put together for a particular project. So it's all about just having the knowledge and getting it there from the outset without sweating it farther down the project line. No, I don't think that rapid progress is the enemy of accessibility. It comes back to not really wanting to separate accessibility from the stuff we're doing every day. It's also part of the fact that accessibility is pretty dependent on the browsers and other technologies that people are using. So, for example, a screen reader is dependent on the browser that the person is using. So the browser has an accessibility API, and it pushes out information about the content on the page through the accessibility API. The screen reader then picks it up and conveys that to the user. So there's a real symbiosis in the relationship between a screen reader and the browser. So the rapid changes that are taking place in the browser marketplace at the moment don't cause any more of a headache just because you're thinking about accessibility than the monumental headache they cause us all because they're changing so fast anyway. From an accessibility point of view, I think Firefox is a really good example. It's making a lot of good information available through its accessibility APIs for assistive technologies to use. The team that are working on it, they put in a lot of time and effort and hours, and I think they deserve a lot of credit. There are probably other browsers doing other good things in that space. But for the moment, when it comes to assistive technologies like screen readers, screen magnifiers, speech recognition, Firefox and Internet Explorer are really the two big players still. And yeah, Firefox has to take the winning ticket on that one. I just read about a technology that Microsoft is working on, which is 3D touch technology. So Minority Report, here we come. But it sounds absolutely amazing. They seem to have developed a screen that when you touch it and say apply pressure, like you're going to press a button, then the tangible effect or the tactile effect is like the screen is moving away from you, so like you've actually pushed something down. And I don't understand the mechanics of it. It seems very new R&D kind of level technology, but if we could get to a point where touch actually becomes 3D, then that's just all my science fiction Christmases in one. But also from an accessibility point of view as a blind person, wow, the potential for that's just extraordinary. But how cool! My Generate talk is a rock and roll guide to ARIA and HTML5. It's going to look at some of the features of HTML5 and ARIA, why they're really useful for creating websites, applications that offer a really good user experience for all kinds of people in your audience, but looking at the accessibility from a screen reader user's point of view, and how just doing all the stuff that comes naturally in HTML5 with some ARIA thrown in for good measure can really make it easy to get accessibility right.